This video is made for entertainment and storytelling purposes only. The events, characters, and locations in this story are based on rumors, legends, and creative interpretation. Any resemblance to real people or places is purely coincidental. Viewer discretion is advised. The road signs still stand, the map still shows its name, but the village itself no longer exists. Not abandoned, not destroyed, just gone. Imagine driving through a quiet American countryside. The air is dark and heavy, when your vehicle suddenly loses signal and the road ahead feels wrong. No lights, no movement, no sound except the wind brushing against tall grass. This is how most people describe their first mistake, the moment they unknowingly reach the place where an entire village disappeared overnight. The story takes place in a remote rural area of the United States, surrounded by endless fields, dense trees, and narrow roads rarely used after sunset. During the day, it looks peaceful, almost boring. But when night falls, the air changes. Crickets stop chirping, the wind dies without warning, and a strange silence settles in, as if the land itself is holding its breath. Locals avoid the area, not because of what they've seen, but because of what they haven't. According to old records, the village was small but alive. Families lived there for generations. Children played outside until dusk. Porch lights glowed warmly at night. On the evening before it vanished, everything was normal. Neighbors waved to each other. Dinner was cooked. Doors were locked. People went to sleep. Yearly morning, not a single person remained. No signs of a struggle were found. No blood. No broken doors. No footprints leading away. Houses were still standing, food was left untouched on tables, and personal belongings remained exactly where they were last used. It was as if time stopped while everyone inside simply disappeared. The story is uncovered through the eyes of a lone researcher, a young adult male who specializes in documenting forgotten American mysteries. He travels alone, recording audio notes and old photographs, trying to separate myth from truth. What draws him to this case is not just the disappearance, but the lack of answers. Police reports end abruptly. News articles contradict each other. Witnesses refuse to speak or suddenly move away. And some names connected to the village appear crossed out in public records, as if someone wanted them erased. As he steps closer to the village grounds, unease begins to grow. The air feels colder than it should. His equipment glitches for no clear reason. Battery levels drop faster than normal. He notices something unsettling. Every house faces inward, as if the village was built to watch itself. Windows are dark, yet reflective, giving the feeling that something is staring back. There are rumors that people who visit the site at night hear faint sounds, footsteps on empty roads, doors closing in the distance, or quiet voices calling names they've never heard before. Some claim the village only appears under certain conditions, like a foggy night or a power outage nearby. Others say it never truly left, but slipped into something we don't fully understand. The researcher finds a final journal entry written by a woman who lived there. She mentions a strange feeling spreading through the village, like everyone was being watched. Dogs refused to go outside. Clocks stop at the same time. And on the last page, the single line is written again and again: "Do not sleep tonight." Standing alone in the center of the village, surrounded by empty homes and unanswered questions, the researcher realizes something chilling. The village didn't disappear overnight. It may have been taken. Or worse, it may be waiting to return. And as the silence deepens and his recording device suddenly cuts to static, one terrifying question remains unanswered: what happens when the village comes back? The static clears, but the silence feels heavier than before. The researcher lowers his recorder and listens, holding his breath as if the village itself might hear him. The night air presses against his skin, cold and damp, carrying a smell of old wood and wet soil. When he takes a step forward, the sound of his boot hitting the road feels too loud, echoing between the empty houses like a warning. Every window remains dark, yet some reflect his movement, bending his shape into something unfamiliar. He begins walking slowly, documenting what he sees. Each house looks lived in, not abandoned. His child's bicycle lies on its side near the porch, rusted just enough to suggest time passed without care. Curtains hang unevenly, as if someone once pulled them aside and never returned. Inside one home, through a cracked door, the dining table is set for dinner. Plates are dusty, but the chairs are pushed back slightly, like the people stood up all at once. The researcher notes that nothing appears stolen. Money sits openly on the counter. Family photos still hang on the walls. Whatever happened here, it was not chaos, it was sudden. As he moves deeper into the village, his equipment begins to act strangely again. The flashlight flickers, dimming for a few seconds before returning to full brightness. His recorder captures low sounds he cannot hear himself, almost like breathing layered beneath the silence. When he plays it back, the sound disappears. He tries to tell himself it's interference, old electronics reacting to the cold, but his hands tremble as he adjusts the settings. Old newspaper clippings he studied earlier mentioned strange behavior in the weeks before the disappearance. People reported shared dreams. Entire families woke up at the same time each night, exactly at 2:17 am. Some villagers claimed they felt watched even inside their homes. One article described a town meeting where residents argued about leaving, but no one ever did. The roads were always open. No storms, no warnings. They simply stayed, as if something quietly convinced them to wait. The researcher reaches what appears to be the center of the village, a small open area with its dry fountain cracked down the middle. The air here feels different, thicker, almost buzzing. His flashlight reveals markings carved into the stone base of the fountain. Symbols, uneven and repeated, not matching any language he recognizes. They look rushed, desperate. He runs his fingers over them and feels a sudden wave of dizziness, like the ground shifts slightly beneath him. A noise breaks the stillness. Not loud, but close. Footsteps. Slow, careful, moving just beyond the range of the light. He spins around, heart racing, but the road behind him is empty. No movement. No shadows. Only the sound of his own breathing, sharp and uneven. He whispers into the recorder that he is not alone anymore, even though he cannot prove it. As the night deepens, fog begins to roll in, crawling along the ground and wrapping around the houses. The village feels smaller now, tighter, as if the space between buildings is shrinking. He notices something disturbing. Some doors that were closed earlier are now open. He knows he didn't touch them. Windows that were dark now reflect light differently, like something inside shifted. He recalls a final detail from a forgotten police report. An officer who entered the village days after the disappearance claimed he heard a radio transmission coming from nowhere. Voices spoke calmly, listing names one by one. The officer never finished his report. He resigned the following week and refused all interviews. That detail felt minor at the time. Standing here now, it feels like a warning ignored. The researcher checks his watch. It has stopped working, frozen at 2:17 am. At the same moment, every porch light in the village flickers on at once, bathing the streets in a dull yellow glow. No switches are flipped. No power lines hum, the lights simply appear, revealing the village as it once was, and as it should not be. Somewhere nearby, the door slowly creaks open. The sound is steady, deliberate, as if whatever caused it knows he is listening. He raises his flashlight toward the noise, his breath caught in his throat, realizing with growing dread that the village may not be empty anymore. It may have just been waiting for someone to notice it again. The porch lights hum softly, a sound so faint it almost feels imagined, yet it vibrates through the soles of the researcher's boots. He takes a cautious step forward, then another, realizing the lights are not warming the village the way they should. Instead, they cast long, stretched shadows that don't always match the shapes creating them. His flashlight beam trembles as he sweeps it across the road, and for a brief moment, he thinks he sees movement between two houses. When he looks again, there is nothing. His recorder suddenly turns on itself. The red light blinks, steady and calm, as if it has always been recording. He whispers his own name to test it, but when he listens back, the playback includes second voice layered beneath his, low, distant, and speaking too slowly. The words are unclear, but the tone feels patient, almost familiar. He shuts the device off, heart pounding, and stuffs it into his jacket pocket, wishing he hadn't come alone. As he continues walking, he notices something deeply unsettling. The houses no longer feel empty. Curtains sway though there is no wind. Floorboards creak inside locked homes. The radio begins playing faintly from somewhere nearby, cycling through static before landing on a voice reading numbers in a flat, emotionless tone. He recognizes the pattern immediately. Coordinates. Or names. He doesn't wait to find out which. And memory resurfaces, something he nearly ignored during his research. A former resident, a young woman, had mailed a letter to a radio station weeks before the disappearance. She claimed the village could listen and that once it learned you, it wouldn't let you leave. The letter ended mid-sentence. At the time, it sounded like paranoia. Standing here now, surrounded by the invisible attention, it feels like a confession. He tries to head back the way he came, but the road doesn't look the same anymore. The curve seems sharper. The distance longer. His heated screen flickers back to life only to display a message that makes no sense. Location confirmed. He spins around slowly, realizing the fog has thickened, swallowing the edges of the village. The space feels tighter, like walls closing in. Another sound reaches him, soft knocking. Not from one house, but many. Slow and rhythmic, as if something is testing doors from the inside. He feels a surge of panic and ducks into the nearest building, pushing the door open without thinking. Inside, the air is stale and heavy. A family living room sits frozen in time. A television glows faintly, showing nothing but static, yet casting enough light to reveal dusty footprints leading toward the hallway. The footprints stop abruptly, as if whoever made them simply vanished. The secondary horror reveals itself when he finds a stack of notebooks on the coffee table. They belong to different villagers, yet the handwriting becomes more similar toward the final pages. Each notebook describes the same dreams. The same voice. The same instruction: stay awake, stay inside, do not answer if you hear your name. The last entries are all written at the same time, the ink pressed hard into the paper, ending with unfinished sentences. A sudden bang shakes the house. The front door slams shut on its own, locking with a sharp click. The knocking outside stops. Silence rushes in, thick and suffocating. Then the whispering begins. Not one voice, but many, overlapping, drifting through the walls. They speak calmly, almost kindly, repeating phrases the researcher remembers from his childhood. Things he never told anyone. The lights flicker once, twice, then hold steady. He backs away slowly, realizing the village isn't just haunted by what happened here. It remembers the people who enter it, and now, it knows him. The whispering fades all at once, leaving a silence so complete it makes his ears ring. The researcher grips his flashlight tighter, knuckles white, and forces himself toward the back door. When he opens it, his stomach drops. The village outside no longer matches the one he entered. Houses appear closer together now, their angles slightly wrong, like a poorly remembered dream trying to correct itself. The air above churns with slow-moving clouds, blocking out any hint of stars. He steps outside and the door slams behind him again, this time so hard the windows rattle. Panic rises in his chest as he realizes every exit feels watched. The road out of the village has vanished into thick fog, replaced by more houses that weren't there before. No matter which direction he turns, the layout subtly shifts, guiding him back toward the center. The porch lights begin flickering in pattern. One by one, they turn off, plunging sections of the village into darkness. The remaining lights grow brighter, forcing his eyes toward the fountain at the center. The same symbols glow faintly now, etched deeper than before, pulsing in time with a low vibration he feels in his bones rather than hears. His recorder turns on again. This time, there is no static. A clear voice speaks his name, pronouncing it perfectly, followed by a sentence that freezes him in place. It thanks him for coming back. He never told anyone he had visited this place once before as a child, passing through with his family, stopping briefly when their car broke down. He remembers the kindness of strangers, the calm feeling that made him want to stay longer. He remembers his parents insisting they leave. The secondary conflict tightens as he realizes something horrifying: the village didn't fail to disappear that night. It completed something. And those who left carried key part of it with them. That part brought him back. The fog thickens, forming shapes that almost resemble people standing just beyond the light. They don't move, but they feel present, watching. His breath fogs the air as the temperature drops sharply. He tries to run, but the ground feels uneven, heavy, like wading through shallow water. Each step takes more effort than the last. A bell rings somewhere nearby, slow and deliberate. With each ring, the houses seem to breathe, wood creaking as if expanding. Windows light up, revealing silhouettes standing inside, still, patient, facing outward. No faces. Just shapes. Waiting. The researcher realizes escape may not be physical. The village isn't trapping his body, it's narrowing his choices, guiding his thoughts, exhausting his will. He feels an overwhelming urge to sit down, to rest, to stop fighting the fear. That urge terrifies him more than anything else. He stumbles back toward the fountain, his flashlight flickering violently now. The symbols flare brighter, and for a brief second, he understands what they are: not words, but boundaries. Markers of something sealed, something fed by attention and memory. The village doesn't hunt. It invites. The recorder captures one final message as he drops it near the fountain. Multiple voices speak in unison, calm and welcoming, promising that the night will end soon. That everyone eventually finds their place. The camera feed shakes as he turns slowly, realizing every path leads deeper in. As the porch lights go dark all at once and the village is swallowed by a shadow, one thought echoes louder than the whispers. Morning is coming. And the village does not intend to disappear again. The darkness settles in fully now, thick and absolute, broken only by the faint glow coming from the symbols at the fountain. The researcher's flashlight dies without warning, leaving him surrounded by shadows that feel closer than before. He doesn't scream. The fear has gone beyond panic and into something quieter, heavier. It's deep understanding that whatever rules this place no longer requires his reaction to continue. The ground beneath his feet vibrates gently, like a distant engine idling underground. The houses begin to change, not collapsing, not moving, but aging and reversing at the same time. Peeling paint smooths itself out. Broken fences stand upright again. The village isn't decaying anymore. It's restoring itself. Preparing. Then the voices return, not whispering now, but speaking clearly from every direction at once. They aren't threatening. They sound relieved. Grateful. They tell him the village has been incomplete for a long time. That something was missing. That visitors came and went, but none stayed long enough to finish what had begun. A sudden realization hits him with crushing force. The village didn't take people randomly. It selected them. People who noticed things. People who listened. People who remembered. The disappearance wasn't a tragedy, it was a transition. Memories that aren't his own flood his mind. He sees the villagers on the final night, standing in their homes as the voices swell until they blur into a single, overwhelming presence, pressing against the researcher's thoughts from every direction. He drops to his knees near the fountain, clutching his head as images slam into his mind, memories that don't belong to him yet feel disturbingly intimate. He sees the villagers on the final night, not panicking, not running, but standing quietly in their homes as the same symbols light up beneath their floors. He feels their fear, then their calm, as the village closes in around them like shelter instead of a trap. He gasps for air and forces himself to stand. Every instinct screams that resisting is pointless, yet something deep inside refuses to surrender. He realizes the village feeds on attention and acceptance. It doesn't need force. It needs consent. That understanding gives him one fragile thread of hope. He stumbles back toward the fountain, the center of everything, where the symbols now glow brighter than ever. The vibration beneath the ground intensifies, cracking the stone and sending thin fractures spidering outward. From the surrounding houses, doors begin to open slowly, all at once. Figures step into the light, men, women, children, silent, empty-eyed, their movements perfectly synchronized. They are not ghosts. They are not decayed. They look whole. Preserved. The researcher backs away, his heel catching on the broken edge of the fountain. One of the figures speaks, using his own voice. It tells him there is no escape because he never truly left. The memory clicks into place with horrifying clarity. As a child, when his family's car broke down here, he wandered away for several minutes. Long enough to hear the whispers. Long enough to be noticed. The village marked him then, patiently waiting for him to grow curious enough to return on his own. He screams in denial and grabs a loose stone from the fountain, slamming it down onto the glowing symbols. The light flickers violently. The vibration stutters. For the first time, the figures hesitate. A deafening sound erupts, like metal tearing beneath the earth. He strikes again and again, hands bleeding, ignoring the pain. Each blow weakens the glow, and the whispers shift into something sharper, more urgent. The village reacts. The ground splits open around him, forcing him closer to the fountain's center. The figures begin moving again, faster now, closing the distance with unnatural precision. He realizes the truth too late, damaging the symbols doesn't destroy the village. It wakes it. The fountain collapses inward, revealing a hollow chamber beneath. Inside, thousands of names are carved into the stone, layered over each other. Some are centuries old. Others are recent. He finds his own name already there, freshly etched, as if it has always been waiting. The final twist hits him with devastating force. The village doesn't trap people to stay alive. It survives year replacing itself. Every generation, one outsider becomes the anchor, the voice, the memory that keeps it hidden and whole. The figures stop inches away from him. The voices soften again, explaining without words. If he accepts his place, the village will fade once more, sparing the outside world. If he refuses, it will remain, growing stronger, drawing others in. The weight of the choice crushes him. There is no victory here. Only sacrifice. Tears streak down his face as the ground steadies and the night grows quiet. Slowly, trembling, he steps into the chamber. The figures retreat, returning to their homes. The symbols dim, the fog lifts. Dawn begins to creep over the horizon. From the outside, the village appears empty again. Abandoned. Silent. But deep beneath the ground, a new voice settles in, calm and watchful, ready to wait. And far away, on a lonely road, traveler feels an inexplainable urge to turn back, unaware that the village has just finished choosing its next story. Morning arrives without warmth. The sun rises over the empty land where the village once stood, casting light over cracked pavement, tall grass, and the faint outline of foundations barely visible beneath the soil. To anyone passing by, it looks like nothing more than an abandoned place forgotten with time. Birds return cautiously. The wind moves freely again. The silence feels normal now. Safe. Deep below, the researcher becomes aware slowly, as if waking from a long, heavy sleep. He doesn't feel pain. He doesn't feel fear. What he feels instead is awareness, vast and quiet. Memories drift through him, not as visions but as impressions. The villager settling into stillness. The fog closing in. The night folding itself away. He understands now what the village truly was. Not place, but the boundary. A holding space between being remembered and being lost. The unanswered questions finally take shape. The disappearances weren't violent. No one was taken screaming into the dark. The village offered refuge from something older, something that moved through time, erasing places completely. The villagers chose to remain, to become unseen rather than undone. Each generation, the village needed someone new to anchor it to the present. Someone curious enough to return. Someone willing, in the end, to stay. He realizes cave records were crossed out, cave maps never updated correctly. The village wasn't hiding. It was being gently ignored by the world, nudged out of focus by forces that preferred it remain sealed. As long as the anchor existed, the village would sleep, surfacing only when someone looked too closely. Time passes differently now. Days blur into moments. He becomes the listener the village needs. When someone strays too close, the roads bend just enough to guide them away. When curiosity grows dangerous, equipment fails. Signals drop. Dreams turn uneasy. The village protects itself quietly, without hunger or malice. But the cost becomes clear. He can still remember his life before, his voice, his hands, the feeling of walking freely, but those memories grow softer each time he uses them. Holding on to himself requires effort. Letting go would be easier. That is the true trap. Not walls or shadows, but comfort. Occasionally, fragments of sound reach him from the surface. Is car engine passing? A voice on the wind. Once laughter. Each sound pulls at something inside him, reminding him of what he gave up. He wonders how long he can remain himself before becoming just another calm presence woven into the village's will. Years later, a new story circulates online. A short post shared late at night. Someone claims they found an empty village not marked on any map. They say their phone lost signal, and for a moment, they felt like the place was watching them. Most readers dismiss it as fiction. A few feel uneasy and close the app. One person saves the location. Below the ground, the researcher feels a faint ripple of attention. It's distant curiosity brushing against the edges of the boundary. The village stirs slightly, not awake but aware. He tightens his hold, guiding the roads, dimming the signals, doing what he was chosen to do. For now, the village remains hidden. Yet one final truth lingers, unsettling even to him. The village doesn't need just one answer forever. It never has. Eventually, curiosity always wins. Someone will stay too long. Someone will hear the whispers and answer. When that happens, the village will choose again. As the screen fades to black, a soft sound emerges, barely audible. A recording clicks on Ike itself. A familiar voice speaks calmly from the darkness, asking the same question it once did on that first night.